Now, one thing we need to address, I think, quite early on. Granted, we are looking at what we have called psychologically informed environments to meet the psychological and emotional needs of people who are homeless. So PIE is P-I-E. It lends itself to a nice little simple visual image. This, I would guess, is probably a lemon meringue pie, personal favourite. So one of the questions is, in order to be able to call yourself to work as a psychologically informed environment, do you need essentially to have on the team a psychologist? In fact, to show that we're talking about a learned person, let's give them glasses. In fact, considering we're talking about psychological and emotional needs, does it actually specifically need to be a clinical psychologist? Let's give them health service earrings. And since within the health service, at least, cognitive behavioural therapy is at the moment very much in favour, CBT, which looks at cognitions, behaviour and emotions and also change. Does it really need to be a cognitive behavioural therapist for you to be able to call yourself a psychologically informed environment? And the simple answer is no. It's not what we'd originally had in mind. It's not what we see. The essence of a psychologically informed environment is that you put the person at the heart of what you're doing. And if you're doing that, what you will find is that there are certain issues like empathy, engagement. These become central to the work you're doing. It's not just a bed for the night and soup kitchen and pointing towards benefits. Now, effectively, when you're dealing with a lot of tangled and difficult to unpick issues, as we often are, anything that comes in and helps bring some clarity and helps us to move on is going to be a good thing. And psychologists have a lot of tricks and tools in their kit that can bring in additional insights and bring additional clarity and comfort sometimes. But it's not just psychologists. There's lots of other schools of thought as well that can be very useful. We might look at, say, anthropology. Now, in Italy, for example, they employ anthropologists in some of the homelessness resettlement services, partly because they are dealing with a large proportion of immigrants coming from, say, North Africa and further afield, but also because anthropologists have a particular training in recognising the extent to which the researcher must be careful not to impose their own culture and their own assumptions on the population that they're listening to. The awareness that there is a culture within homelessness and that many people have come from other cultures, and the need to understand that. Within sociology, for example, you've got a lot of people looking at roles of the way organisations and institutions operate and the way they process individuals. And certainly the possibility of identifying positive and constructive roles that work with the strengths as well as the weaknesses of the individual. Oh, and in areas like organisational development, there's a lot of work done on how the organisation itself can be more fit for purpose, and there's been a lot of work done in thinking through that. But really, when you come down to it, if empathy and engagement are what we're after, and psychology, social policy, social work, anthropology can all help to inform this process of engaging people who have a lot of difficulties in engagement, then what we have argued is that the golden road, the most successful thing that any staff team can engage in, is dialogue, discussion within the team, and discussion where possible with your service users, ex-service users and so on. And this process of dialogue and discussion, we have sometimes used the term reflective practice to describe this, thinking over, asking yourself, to be a pie is essentially not about getting the right answers from any one profession, but of asking yourselves continuously, what are we doing here? How could we improve? How can we take into account the psychological and emotional needs to make that run right through the heart of what you're doing? And if you're doing that, ladies and gentlemen, you're a psychologically informed environment.